blood orange sunset looms over the twists and turns of OTK tonight. The smoke from the Canadian wildfires fills the air as we get ready to see who will get the job done in tonight's edition of League Night. Welcome in, folks. We're live here from On Track Karting here in Wallingford, Connecticut. We're getting the last of the drivers sat down for the first of two qualifiers tonight. We have 20 heads here at OTK. Top 5 from each heat race will make the A main, with the bottom 5 dropping down to the B main. Some things to note in regards to your point standings. Passmaster remains the point leader by 11 points over Nasty, but for the first time in what seems to be a very long time, is not the number 1 driver in the USA. That belongs to a driver that calls Vegas home, though he has only raced at said track twice this year, with the rest of his races taking place in the United Arab Emirates. We'll have to see how Sodi handles that. Nasty remains 11 points back, as neither him nor Passmaster had an A main worth retaining last week. JP57 is a no-show tonight, but he's up at Stafford Speedway to race in the modified Masters. He will try and tackle those low bank corners alongside Martinsville Muffin in the open race. He sits 3rd in the points, well behind the top 2. Looking to overtake him in the standings tonight is Gone Racing, who's slightly over 200 points back. A good race from him tonight could see him back on the podium. A bit of a surprise showing from Fiasco, as many, like myself, expected him to also be up at Stafford, but he did tell me he's trying to go for 3 wins in a row, saying he'll just stick to watching those guys duke it out on his phone. I can't blame him. With that opportunity, you gotta go for it. Brody returns to OTK, and I assume many have seen his posts on TikTok before. He holds the track record in our pro cars, so we'll see if his speed translates well for wheel-to-wheel racing. The first drivers have finished their first lap in the qualifying for the heat race. Passmaster tops the board to perhaps no one's surprise. It's a 38.956, so a very slow first lap for these drivers. We're now 2 laps in, as most of the drivers have now finished their second lap, and many of them barely squeaking at 38. Only the top 5 have gone into that 38-second range so far. As I say that, though, left on his second lap, he takes the pole position. Potentially. We'll have to see if he holds on to it. He has a 38.323. Right behind him, though, is Passmaster with 38.734. But again, as I say that, Jester takes that second spot. And again, right as I say that, it jumps right back to being Passmaster. So your top 3... Excuse me, every single time I try to say the top 3, it changes every single time. So right now, your top 3, with that improvement on that last lap there by left, down to a 38.199, left holds on to the pole position. Danny D in the 19 kart, he starts on the outside of the front row with a 38.395. Passmaster starts in P3 with a 38.525. Jester makes his way into the top 4 with a 38.727, and not too far behind him with a 38.739 is Fiasco, starting in P5. On the outside of that third row is Mark L. He'll try to make his way by Piasca to make it into that A main. Emma Baker sits in P7 with a 38.902. Brody, not doing so hot in this go around. He has qualified P8. Right behind him is Quad B in P9, and then rounding out your field will be Shock 537. Just a normal league race tonight. Forward direction, no frills, no thrills. We're getting set to go. They're about to go under the bridge. I gotta channel my inner DW again as boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. Left already takes the dive into turn 1 there. He will see himself clear at the carousel. He takes sole possession of the lead. Starting the first lap now. They cross that start-finish stripe. In the back of the pack, and I should say in the middle of the pack, there's a lot more shuffling already going on. That sees Piazza potentially drop down to P6. We'll have to see if he is able to hold on. Yes, he will through that hairpin corner. He holds on to P5 there, just barely making it by Mark L. A lot of contact there. That's from Piasca. So from Piasca on back, it's going to be a difficult battle to hold on to the A main spot. Reminder, Piasca is looking for his third A main win in a row. So if he sees pressure there from Mark L, we'll have to see if he's even able to hold on to the A main spot. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, it remains Left, followed then by Danny D, Passmaster, and then Jester is in P4. Piasca rounds out your top 5 with Mark L sitting P6. He's dropped back just a couple of tenths now from Piasca there. From 7th on back, it's a pretty tight battle. Not going to mean too much in the grand scheme of things for the A main, but we'll have to see who makes it by who here. Meanwhile, towards the front of the pack, Danny D has already caught the back bumper of Left. Going through the carousel here. So used to it being reverse direction here. We've ran it a few times as of late, but this time, as I said, it's just normal direction tonight. Piasca really starting to distance himself now from Mark L, as Mark L continues to distance himself from P7. So it's really going to be a matter of whether Mark L can actually regain that lap time and get back on Piasca's back bumper, as now in the back of the pack for P7. We see them go too wide under the bridge. Continuing to go too wide through the carousel. That's Emma Baker and Brody. Brody's looking to potentially hold on for dear life for P7 here. So again, it's not going to be enough for him to make it into the A-main unless something drastic happens in the front of the pack here. Already about to be 5 laps into this first heat race. We see Danny D on that lap take the fastest lap of the race. The first 37 of the night, I believe. A 37.910. So he's certainly catching Left here for that race lead. So we'll have to see if Danny D can maintain his solid set of finishes that he's had these past few weeks. These past couple months, really. Left, meanwhile, still holds on to that top spot. He has a 38.092. improving now to a 38.031 on lap 6. Fiasco has already caught Jester now for P4. He just ran a 38.002 compared to Jester. He ran a 38.551, so he's running a half second quicker. Or a half, yes, a half second quicker. So we'll have to see if he can make anything out of that, and we'll also have to see if Mark L can make anything out of that. He's also running just about a tenth quicker than his Jester. That battle from 7th onwards has really been tight. It's been Brody that's just been having to put on a lot more blocking moves than he's really that accustomed to. He isn't really, when he's going for his fast lap times, he isn't really having to block all too much if they go too wide through the hairpin corner. Brody able to hang on to it there. But yeah, as I was saying there, Brody hasn't really had to do too many blocking maneuvers in his attempts for his fast lap time, his record lap time. He's just out there pretty much all by his lonesome there whenever he's racing for his fast laps. Meanwhile, the battle for P4 has really tightened now. Fiasco now sees himself on the back bumper of Jester. About 2 tenths now separating them, and as we always have said here at On Track, 2 tenths really doesn't mean much. A little bit of a tire squeal there in the back of the pack. I believe that's from Shock 537 as he tries to maybe make a dive on Quad B there for P9. If I'm Fiasco right now, I want to say to myself, I got to get by Jester right now, because I know that Mark L is right behind me. I want to give myself an opportunity even to race for that 3rd consecutive win. If he doesn't make it by Jester here, I don't know whether or not he'll have that sort of cushion that he really wants to have on Mark L. Meanwhile, towards the front of the pack, Danny D continues to improve. He just ran a 37.741. He's now running 2 tenths quicker than his left. Left also with a 37, but by the skin of his teeth, as we always say with left, he barely makes it to those sort of thresholds. He ran a 37.977, or excuse me, a 997. Just improved that last lap time to a 989. So Danny D definitely going to be maintaining that position. We'll have to see if he wants to get by left here or if he's content with holding on to P2. Him and left are really running away from Passmaster, who sits now almost 3.5 seconds back in P3. Meanwhile, in the back of the pack, it remains unchanged. It still remains Brody, followed then by Emma Baker, Quad B, and Shock 537. As they fan out, almost 3 wide there, coming under the bridge. No change in position, though. Left continues to improve his lap time. He just ran a 37.927. So he's pulling just a slight bit from Danny D, but not by all too much. Really no position, really no gain from Danny D there. No time gain, I should say. In the back of the pack, we got even more tire squealing. Looked like potentially Emma Baker tried to move, as she once again tries to move through the new hairpin. Looks to the outside, not quite going to make it work. Gets back in line just in front of Quad B. As meanwhile, in that battle for the transfer spot, it's really tightening up. Mark L is getting closer and closer to the back bumper of Fiasco, so we'll have to see if Fiasco makes any desperation moves as the white flag flies in this one more time around for left. We'll have to see if Danny D also makes a desperation move to get that V-main, or that race win, as in the back of the pack. Wow, Emma Baker and Quad D both make it by Brody there, coming through the light pole. They both improve one spot apiece. As I say that, through the final hairpin of this track, Danny D tries it, but doesn't get it to work. Through the final sets of corners left, will take the checkered flag. He will potentially start on the pole. He guarantees himself a front row starting spot. He just ran a 37.894, so we'll have to see how that holds up compared to the other drivers from this upcoming heat race. Danny D finishes in P2. He really tried it there through that final hairpin corner. Wasn't quite able to make it work. Passmaster finishes P3 as the final carts make it past the start-finish stripe. But yes, Passmaster finishes down in P3. Fiasco finishing down in P4. Jester holding on to P5. So actually, yes, Fiasco did find a way past Jester there, I believe, on that final lap. So he knew that he had to make something happen there to really improve his chances of getting an A main victory. Finishing down in P6, we see Mark L, followed then by Emma Baker, Quad B, Brody, and rounding out your field, finishing P10 is Shock 537. The drivers hop out of their carts. We're going to be getting set to go for the second of 2 qualifying races to set tonight's A main. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. already getting prepared to bring you the second, of 2 qualifying races to set the field for the AMA. We see a lot of new faces in this one. More particularly, we see guys like Extreme. We see guys like Blue Moon. And we see guys like Gino. But paired with those guys are a couple of guys that are near the top of the leaderboard. Nasty is in this race. He sits second on the leaderboard. Gone Racing sits fourth for the time being, but we'll have to see if he can improve on his lap time. Definitely a bizarre one, but he's lucky that we only have 10 karts on track right now, as he'll get himself righted fairly quickly. Won't really lose out on any laps. That would be Extreme that sees himself spun out in the final set of corners. Crypto 2, he sees himself on top of the leaderboard after the first couple of laps have gone by. He sits with a 38.006. I believe he sits fairly well within the top 10 in the point standings here at OTK. But as it stands right now, your top of the leaderboard is Crypto, and followed by Nasty and Gone Racing, to no one's surprise. Firefighter is in P4. Blue Moon, a newcomer, he sits in P5 of this race. So if he is able to hold on to that, actually he improves to P4 now. He just ran a 38.360. So now he sits in P4. Firefighter sits in P5. Number 1 Dad in P6. With Extreme in P7, Stevo in P8, Gino in P9, and as I say that, Fives was at the bottom of the leaderboard, but now he sees himself in P5 with a 38.612. So your top 5 looks like Crypto with a 38.006, followed then by Nasty with a 38.025, Gone Racing is in P3. I believe a 38.325. Timing board is switched on me, so it's doing me, once again, a little bit dirty. But Blue Moon sits in P4. Then, rounding out your top 5 is, well, isn't this a coincidence? We have 5s rounding out your top 5. So we'll see if those top 5 drivers are able to hold on to their spots and guarantee themselves a spot in the show. As we await the go-ahead from the track marshals, there it is. They're getting sent. For the second time tonight, they go under the bridge. Not quite good to go yet. Oh, it seemed to be potentially a problem there for Nasty, and yes, it was. There was a lack of a green flag wave, so I don't know exactly what's happening here. Nasty appears to have a problem with his kart. We have yet to see if there was anything going on. Might have been Crypto that jumped the start here, as they all continue to go at a very slow pace. So not quite sure what's going on. Yes, they are calling the red flag finally. Lights did not go out at all there, but they were all crawling. Not quite sure if that was Crypto that actually jumped the start. We'll have to see if Nasty does indeed get back on the front row. Yes, he will. so they will retain their original starting spots. So a bit of an odd one here. Wasn't quite sure if the choke slipped potentially on Nasty's kart or if Crypto just straight up jumped the start there. I do believe, at least from what I'm hearing from the other drivers here in pit lane, I do believe that Crypto did jump the restart. It looks like he will be able to hold on to his front row starting spot. Into the disagreement from those in pit lane, but definitely an interesting one for sure. As we get ready to go again, we'll have to see if this one is a little bit cleaner. Is the green flag waved? We're good to go in the second qualifying race. As already we see a lot of sliding back in the back of the pack. Crypto holds on to that pole position. He will start the first lap from the lead. As Nasty already looking to the inside. Will he get there through the first of several hairpins on this track? No, he will not. That is not gonna work for him just yet. As in the back of the pack, a lot of contact. Definitely not too pleasant there in the back of the pack, but they're already sitting well behind the transfer spot, as we already see a roadblock there. I believe that goes to Steve-O. The end of lap one, your leaderboard looks like Crypto, followed then by Nasty. Gone Racing. Blue Moon is holding on his own against those top tier drivers, sitting at P4. Fives will round out your top five. They've already pulled a slight gap on Firefighter sitting down in P6, so it's much of the same from the last race we just had. They've already fanned out a little bit here. Really the only battle going on aside from those in the back of the pack is for the lead. But it's really not all too close. They're pretty evenly spread out, as I said. Nasty, though, he does sit on the back bumper of Crypto, so we'll have to see once again if he's content with holding on to P2 or if he does want to get by Crypto there for the race lead and the race win. If Crypto does hold on, though, he'll start alongside Let, which we've seen a lot of history between these two. A little bit of none too pleasant driving a while back, mind you, but that coming from Crypto there. On Left, I've seen them have their fair share of disagreements over the past few weeks. We're already 30 weeks in to this year. It's surprising to say we're already over halfway through the year. We'll have to see who can hold on for this second half of the year. Not quite coming down the stretch yet, but definitely gonna be interesting to see who is the closer, much like Kevin Harvick, who is the closer in this year's league racing. Firefighter has distanced himself a little bit from P7, that being number one Dad. Don't know whether or not he'll be able to catch up there to 5, sitting in P5. He's only running a 38.650 down in P6 compared to 5's 38.488 in P5. Crypto now starting to really run away with this thing already. Crypto and Nasty already both have a 37-second lap time, but Crypto is flying out there. He has a 37.674 compared to 37.940 of Nasty. On Racing sits in P3 still. He is yet to hit that 37-second lap time, but he's knocking on the door. He has a 38.080. So only 0.08 of a second off that 37-second lap time. Blue Moon with a 38.283, so he's absolutely holding his own. Is in the back of the pack there. A lot of beating and banging. Not quite sure why they're beating and banging. It's not really going to matter all too much in the grand scheme of things, but that's beating and banging for P8 there. That's Extreme and Stevo that are doing a lot of the heavy battling. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, unless something catastrophic happens, I don't think anyone's really catching anyone out there. They're pretty spaced out. And from P1 down to P5, they're running pretty equivalently spaced lap times. You see a 37.642 there from Crypto. As he continues to improve, he's down to a 37.515, so he sees himself in the 37.5 second range. That's very impressive on a night as, well, quite frankly, on a night as hot as this, hot and humid as this. Gone Racing continues to run in that 38.08 range. He just ran a 38.089, so they're running about 0.2 spread from each other in that top five. So 37.5 from Crypto is really the only outlier. He's running away from this group. Then it's down to a 37.956, then a 38.080, and a just about 38.2 from Blue Moon. He actually improved not too long ago down to a 38.1, and it's about a 38.445. So again, about 0.2 for each driver separate one another in terms of consistent lap times. You can see, I believe that's number one dad. I can't tell if he's having fun out there or if he's having a hand cramp. That happens way too often here. I know that feeling all too well here at On Track. As they've just reached 5 to go here. Crypto continues to run away with this thing. He's already 2.5 seconds ahead of Nasty there in P2. Gone Racing still sits P3. Blue Moon still sits P4. Fives rounds out your top 5, so your A main seems pretty set in stone right now. Already with that lap time, the 38.515 though. Crypto, if he holds on, which I don't see a world in which he doesn't, he will take the pole position over left. So left will start on his outside. Nasty, meanwhile, he has to improve by a little under 1/10 of a second on his lap time to start P3. Right now, Danny D holds on to that with a 37.741. And just as I say that, Nasty will take potentially P3 if he holds on to P2 here. He just ran a 37.719 compared to Danny D's 741. Master will, for the first time in a very long time, he will start outside of the top 5. So he will start P6. Gone Racing, if he holds on to position, he will start on the inside of row 3. They've really started to pan out a bit here. They continue to fan out. As 2 to go. outcoming to 1 to go as Crypto takes the final few corners. The white flag flies one more time around in the second qualifying race. Really been a dominant performance all race long by Crypto. He has not seen himself any slower than Nasty the entire race. He has had a faster lap time than Nasty throughout the entirety of this race. But coming again through the final few corners, coming through the kink, he will see the checkered flag. He will see himself on the pole. Crypto with the second win. The win in the second qualifying race. Finishing right behind him will be Nasty, and then right behind him is Gone Racing. He will start inside the top 5. Blue Moon rounds out your top 4. Fives. I mean, are you surprised? He held on to top 5. Firefighter, he finished in P6. 20.5 seconds back of Crypto. So, as I said, a very dominant performance from Crypto here. Number 1, Dad finishes down in P7, followed then by Extreme in P8, in the 8 kart, so he was destined for P8. Stevo finishes down in P9, and then rounding out your field, we see Gino. So as we get set to go soon here for the A main, your top 5 will look like Crypto starting on the pole, followed then by left on the outside pole. Nasty starts in P3, followed then by Danny D on the outside row, starting in P4. And then rounding out your top 5, we have Gone Racing. We're going to take a little bit of a break here. We get everyone all set to go for the A main, the all-encompassed A main. So, man, this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a tight pack, I can tell you that much. We'll be back in about 10 minutes here. Hang on.
Touch every chair. Take the chair. Right, which way is the camera pointing anywhere?
All right, guys, we are live again from the event room. We're getting set to bring you the interviews as we start with our pole sitter. We got Crypto. He makes his way over here. So, Crypto, your third career pole after you dominated that second heat race. Think you can hold off your friend and mentor, Passmaster, for your fifth victory and third on the year?
I know it will be challenging, but I know I can, and I know I will because I believe in myself.
That's all you need to do. You just need to believe in yourself. That's all you need. So, best of luck to you as we get, hopefully, over here. We got left. He'll start on the inside, or on the outside, excuse me, of the front row. So, again, you start on the outside of the front row alongside Crypto. And we've seen a fair bit of history between you two in the past. But do you think you can put your differences aside and have a good fight for the win?
Absolutely not. I'm going to wreck him in turn one. Your days are numbered. No, we're both competitive, so we both want to win. It'll be a good race. It's been a while since I've seen the front, so we're looking to stay there and be one spot better.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck to you left. Moving on to P3, we have Nasty. I think just about. So, Nasty, you in fact did not do better than Portugal last week. But will this week be any different with you starting third?
Nah, I'm just going to wing it.
Sounds about right. That's about what Portugal did. But at the same time, I mean, they didn't do too hot. So you think winging it will work for you?
Yes.
Fair enough. Well, best of luck to you, Nasty. As we move on to Danny D. Danny D, you're still on your hot streak. You think you can hold on to it and maintain at least P4 and potentially see yourself up there again for a race win?
Well, first of all, you need to understand that half of this game is a game of chance, right? So it really depends on which cart you are getting. Let's face the realities, right? So, but given a good cart, I will just do what I did in the heat race. I'll just follow Pete, and that should get me into a good spot, I would hope. So why not?
Absolutely. It worked well for you these past few weeks. I mean, you've just been following a lot of drivers. So, I mean, we'll see if the hot streak continues for you.
It really helps if you're a little bit older and wiser, then the ambition goes away, and that makes it a lot more fun and just more enjoyable. But we'll be okay.
Absolutely, Danny. Best of luck to you. As we move on, finally, rounding out your top five, we have Gone Racing. So, Gone Racing, didn't have quite enough time to write you a question, but you sit, I'm sorry for that, but you sit in P4 in the standings, and with JP57 not here tonight, this is a big opportunity for you to jump up a little bit higher. You think you can actually do that and jump up to be back on the podium?
I really hope that I do. With him not being here, I mean, I know it's the top 20, races that you get. So both of us have those 20 races. Hopefully, I could just capitalize on getting a good position over his top 20. So,
absolutely, Gone Racing. Well, best of luck to you as we move along soon to the A main. We'll be back soon. as the drivers start to draw their chips. We'll have to see what Passmaster in particular draws here, because these previous 2 weeks saw Passmaster draw Kart 2. And while he has been masterful in his blocking abilities, he did tell me he wants a new kart for a change. We'll have to see if he can find some better luck here. As let's take a look at what kart he pulled. Well, it's certainly a different kart, but he pulled kart 15, so we'll have to see how he can manage that. Final drivers pulling their chips, getting situated for this week's A main. Stay tuned. The kart's already been fired up. They're pulling out of pit lane now. We're getting set to go here for this week's A main. Just a reminder on your starting lineup. Your top 5 consists of Crypto starting on the pole with Left starting alongside. Nasty starts in P3 with Danny D on the outside of the second row. Rounding out your top 5 will be Gone Racing. He starts on the inside of the third row with Passmaster starting alongside him in P6. Piasca sits down in P7. He'll be trying to get his third A main win in a row, so it's going to be a tough ask for him, but certainly has the capabilities to do it, as we've seen in the past. Unfortunately for him, though, he does draw kart number 2, the kart that DJ, Passmaster, the kart that he's been dreading. But starting right behind right behind Piasca, down in P8, is going to be Blue Moon. I believe he hails from Pioneer Valley up in Springfield, Massachusetts. So best of luck to him. Down in P9, though, we have Jester. And rounding out your field, we have Fives. As the track marshals are already getting set to go. They are already rolling. They're going under the bridge now. I got to channel my inner Rick Allen now. The green flag's in the air. We're underway. As already, oh boy, they have a lot of sliding there. Crypto sees himself through to the race lead all alone, but left now, right behind him, with Nasty still sitting in P3. Wow, at the exit of turn 2, that's he's left. And Nasty both by Crypto before they even reach turn 3. Crypto already loses 2 spots there. So a rough start to this race for Crypto. He already sees himself down in P3 as Left now holds on to the race lead. He certainly has a great kart, but so too does Nasty. That's 18, kart 18 and kart 19 for Left and Nasty respectively. Already, though, we see that top 3 starting to run away from Danny D down in P4. Right behind Danny D is Passmaster in P5. Gone Racing has dropped down a few spots. He's actually, only dropped down 1 spot, but still, the spot he would not have liked to see himself lose. Fives has been the loser here. He's dropped down 2 spots from P5 down to P7. Blue Moon has dropped down to P8. Piasca has also dropped down quite a number of spots, down to P9. Jester rounds out your field now with a 38.979. He sits not quite tailing the field. He's a little bit behind us, going to the new hairpin. Nasty sees himself through for the race lead. Crypto thought about taking a dive there to follow Nasty through, but not quite going to get the job done through there. As I think it's going to be a great battle between these top 3. We're going to see a lot of shuffling between these top 3 tonight. They all have very solid karts. They're going to have a great battle here, folks. Yes, as I said before, Left has kart 18, Nasty in kart 19. And then Crypto with kart 6. So very solid karts for those 3, as already we see Passmaster through the new hairpin. He makes a dive on Danny D for P4. We'll see if he can make his way up the pack. Fives has already regained a few spots. Actually, no, he hasn't. That's Blue Moon. That's dropped a few spots, so it made it look like 5 had gained a few. No, he hasn't. He's maintained 7th place here as Gone Racing makes his way past Danny D 2 for P5. Already now, though, we see Nasty with a 37.717. He's running away already from that P2 kart of Left. Crypto now sits right behind him, just about by a half a second. But we'll have to see if Passmaster and Gone Racing can make up the time lost on that race start. But based on what I've seen so far, it looks like Nasty is already home free 6 laps into this race. Now 7 laps as he crosses the stripe. He continues to run fastest lap after fastest lap. He just hit a 37.369, the fastest lap of the night. Left now sits almost 2 seconds back. As meanwhile, a battle for P4 between Passmaster and Gone Racing. Not quite sure if P4 tonight, with only 20 drivers, will be enough to see him to the podium spots. But it could barely be enough. I do believe we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I do apologize for that. I do hope that you're still able to at least hear me. But some blocking maneuvers being put on by Passmaster there for P4, as Danny D continues to hold off the rest of the pack for P6. Not quite, though. That's actually Piasca with a little bump and run. Nothing too out of the ordinary, though, as he sees himself through to P6 ahead of Danny D, as Danny D, oh man, definitely putting in all he can to hold off the rest of this pack, but we'll have to see if there's any sort of flags, potentially. As I say that, yes, I do remember, yes, there is a competition caution. Forgive me for forgetting. So yes, at halfway through this race, we do have a competition caution. So just when Nasty thought he was home free, sure, he's running significantly quicker lap times than anyone in the rest of the field. But again, they're going to line up single file because they already have gathered it up. They're already getting set to go under the bridge. Mays over by the new hairpin, getting ready to throw the green flag for this restart. And the green flag will wave. There's already some blocking moves as, no, it's not quite going to get the job done. But Passmaster now sees himself into P3. He took it all the way to the inside. He makes it by Crypto. So too does Gone Racing and Piasca. So Crypto, as a result of that restart, he drops all the way down to P6. He could see himself potentially lose even more spots with Danny D now right on his bumper. But meanwhile, at the front of the pack, not too much change between those top two. Nasty still running significantly faster lap times than the rest of the field. He's already starting to pull away from left here, so it's going to be a matter of how close can left get. And if left can hold off a hard-charging Passmaster. I will give my flowers to Piasca. He's definitely doing a really good job for himself, holding on to P5 in that 2-car. As I say that, I think Gone Racing has realized that he's significantly quicker than Passmaster. So too has Passmaster realized that Gone Racing is quicker than him. So he will let Gone Racing by him in that 11 car. We'll see if Gone Racing can actually catch up to left for P2 and maybe even catch up to the leaders. But with how quick that Nasty is running right there, I think it's a foregone conclusion. I think Nasty will get this job done. He's already a second and a half ahead of left. So far, your order as we approach lap 14 of 20. We have Nasty sitting in P1. He's all alone there. Followed then closely by left, or not closely, excuse me, not too far behind is left. Gone Racing sits P3, followed then by Passmaster in P4. Piasca, well, he did sit in P5, but he got passed by Crypto through those first two corners there of this last lap here. So now Crypto sits in P5. Piasca down in P6. Danny D holding off a train from P7 down to P10. P8 consists of fives, and then P9, Blue Moon, Chester will round out your field in P10. As we approach now 5 laps to go, Nasty continues to run away with this thing. He's now 2.3 seconds ahead of left. He still holds on to the fastest lap of the race. He hasn't been able to improve it quite, but with a 37.3, I don't think there's anyone that's even going to touch that aside from him tonight. Gone Racing continues to improve. He actually is quicker, ever so slightly than left. I think it's too late for him to see himself into P2. He only has, as this lap approaches its end, he only will have 3 laps to do it. Left is getting bigger and bigger in his vision, but I don't know if he's going to get quite close enough to make a reasonable dive there. But already Piasca dropping significantly further and further back from Crypto. He is running 39 flats compared to Crypto's 38 ones. So not looking all too good for Piasca. I think he's just out there to have fun now as he's starting maybe to drop back to Danny D. Maybe look to have a little battle with him. We'll have to see here. But as we see 2 laps to go, Nasty continues to run insanely quick lap times. He actually dropped into a 37.2. That is incredible on a night like tonight. Compared to the rest of the field, he is 0.4 of a second quicker than the second fastest lap time. That belongs to Gone Racing down in P3. As I speak of Gone Racing, he now sees himself on left's back bumper. Is he quite close enough, though? As through the final kink, the white flag flies one more time around for Nasty. He's all by his lonesome. He's dominated practically the entire race. As meanwhile, a battle for P2 there. Gone Racing gets pushed out wide. I think that will just about seal left into P2, but we'll have to see here. But coming through the carousel for the final time tonight, Nasty through the kink. He will take the race win. Left will hold off Gone Racing for P2. Gone Racing finishes down in P3, so a good points day for him. We'll have to see if it's enough to get him into P3 in the Sodi standings. As we see a congratulatory handshake from left there. A good 1-2 finish from 2 really good buddies, those being Nasty and Left. Finishing down in P4 though, we see Passmaster. He's able to hold off Crypto. So Crypto drops back a fair amount of spots. He drops from the pole position down to P5, so not quite able to get the job done there in that 6 kart. Down in P6 though, we have Piasca. So a dreaded 2 karts, as we say. Didn't really work too well for him. But he was able to hold off Danny D on those final closing laps there. So Danny D finishes down in P7, followed then by 5s. Blue Moon finishing down in P9. Followed then, and rounding out your top 10 and your field for tonight is Chester. Truly the class of the field there, though, was Nasty. 37.2. That is absurd. Sure, it's a little bit colder tonight than most nights, but still, the humidity will tend to bog these karts down just a hair. 37.2 is absolutely something to write home about for Nasty here. So, clearly, this time around, better than Portugal did. So, props to him. We get ourselves ready to draw chips for the B main. Once again, we see a lot of newer heads for this one. I believe a lot of them coming from Pioneer Valley, yet another Sodi track up in Springfield, Massachusetts. Back here in Wallingford, Connecticut, On Track Karting is actually hosting Ryan Reese tomorrow at 12 o'clock. That will run from 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. So Ryan Priest, NASCAR driver for RFK Racing, drives in the Cup Series. He's actually, believe it or not, is on track's own. He used to work here not too long ago during his modified days here in his home state of Connecticut. He lived just a couple towns over. So for those of you who are close by to Connecticut, who want to meet a real NASCAR driver, a driver that won the Clash earlier this year, come stop by On Track Karting tomorrow from 12 until 2 p.m. You might just get to race yourself against that NASCAR driver. If you can beat your time, or beat his time, beat your own personal time, beat his time. Why not? Back very, very shortly as the final drivers pull their chips. We'll get this thing back going as the karts get back fired up here. Get back very shortly. Carts start to pull out of pit lane here. We're getting set to go for the B main. For this one, we have Mark L sitting on the pole, followed then by Firefighter in the cart that dominated this past race, the 19. Emma Baker sits in P3 in the 18 cart, so the cart that finished P2, so we'll have to see how she can do in this one. It's funnily enough, the same two carts that are in P2 and P3. So we'll have to see how she does. Number one Dad starts in P4 in the dreaded, once again, the dreaded 2 cart. Like how we say the dreaded 2 cart, but all in all, the 2 didn't finish all too far off the pace. I believe it ran a 38.3. Fiasco, that's nothing to write home about, but still, fairly quick for OTK tier tonight. Fitting down in P5 in the 6 cart, we have Quad B, then followed by Extreme in the 11. Steve-O in the 3 cart, he starts in P7. Brody starting down in P8 in the 20 cart. So almost cinematic. He did make a TikTok a while ago. Didn't really like the 20 cart all that much, is all I'll say. But starting down in P9, we have Gino. And then rounding out your field in that 15 cart, we have Shock 537. As the last of the chokes are checked, the marshals get the field set to go for the B main. Mark L already pulling out pretty quickly. The green flag waves. We're good to go in the B main. As perhaps pulling out a little bit too early did cost Mark L. He had to slow up just a bit to meet Maze's expectations here. That sees now Firefighter into the lead before we even start the first lap. And Baker holds off P3, but now in the back of the pack, that's a fight for P7, maybe. Yes, P7. Will Brody make it past? No, he will not, but a lot more beating and banging back here than towards in the front of the pack. Really curious to see if Mark L can climb himself back up to catch Firefighter, but once again, we saw in the A main, that 19 cart, that was a rocket ship as it has been in many weeks before. As already a pass for P3. No, that's for P4. That is Quad B, I believe. No, he will give the spot back, so perhaps he did not think he made that pass all too cleanly. In my eyes, I thought that was a squeaky clean pass. He definitely doored him a bit, but it was even door-to-door passing, making it a little bit tougher on himself, as he might actually pay the price. Now that's Steve-O looking to get by, but again, Steve-O might pay the price. That's Extreme looking to the inside. Not quite gonna get the job done. Steve-O maintains P6. Meanwhile, back at the front of the pack, Firefighter is already starting to run away with this thing. That 19 is really paying off for whoever hops in it tonight. But we do have to keep in mind, the competition caution did see a little bit of a positional change as Mark L actually lets Emma Baker go by for P2. Much to the delight of Emma Baker there. It remains to be seen, though, if she can actually catch up to Mark L the Firefighter on pure pace. But once again, that competition caution at halfway, that could spell a whole lot of drama. Saw a lot of positional changes, as I said, in the A main. See if it's more of the same. We'll see if it's more of the same in terms of who takes the race win, who takes the race lead after the restart. It's already that top four starting to distance himself a little bit from P5, that being number one Dad. But from number one Dad on back to P9, they're bumper to bumper. Gino fits in P10. He's already about a second off of P9, so he really can't wait on that competition caution here. Six laps already down. They're already making a whole lot of moves. That's Brody now, trying to get on the inside of Extreme. He will pay the price potentially. Yes, he will. That is now Shock 537 that sees himself through into P8. Brody dropping like a rock. He's now down to P9. So a bit too aggressive for him going through the light bulb. That really cost him there though. As now Steve-O makes it by number one Dad. He's into P5. They remain bumper to bumper from P5 on back. Actually, now number one Dad, him now sitting back down in P6. Steve-O's starting to pull a little bit of a gap from him. Starting to see a lot more drivers get a little bit antsy here. But as we rapidly approach the competition caution, we only have one lap to go before we see it get thrown. Number one Dad doing his best to hold off the rest of the field. He's sitting in that two part. We saw Piasca do a good job in the A main, excuse me. It's a lot of positional shuffling. Not quite sure if there's going to be any bad blood going into this competition caution. Coming through the final sets of corners here. Firefighter gets prepared to see the competition caution, and there it is. The competition caution flies. They all slow up just a tad. So going into the competition caution, we have your order. Firefighter, followed then by Emma Baker, Mark L, Quad B, and Steve-O rounds out your top five. So we'll have to see if Steve-O can actually make his way up the pack. He was definitely gaining a little bit of time, at least on Quad B, so we'll have to see how he does here. Sitting down in P6, we have number one Dad. P7 belongs to Shock 537 as we're already under the bridge. And a little bit of brake checking there. The green flag back on the way. Too wide. Oh man, I think that's Shock 537 that's going to see himself drop all the spots that he just had gained. That now sees Brody back into P7. Shock 537 down to P8 there, so a bad blow for him. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, no changes to your top five. It remains Firefighter, Emma Baker, Mark L, Quad B, and Skibo. Firefighter holds on to the fastest lap of the race. He's the only driver in this race to have a 37-second lap time. He holds I believe that is a 37.947. So unless Emma Baker can absolutely find a brand new gear in that number 18 cart, I think it's Firefighter's race to lose as he continues to now run fast lap after fast lap. I believe he just shaved another 10th off his lap time. I believe that's now an 8.46, a 37.846. as Brody continues to make his charge up the path. Oh boy, that is not too great. Yeah, he's gonna have to give that spot back if I gotta think he's gotta give that spot back. Maybe he won't, but he definitely did pinch number 1 Dad into the wall there. No, he will not. He will not have to give that spot back, but he did give a hand wave and did apologize to number 1 Dad, and perhaps a little bit too little of an apology, though. I'll have to see if there's any bad blood between these two post-race. I don't believe there will be, but meanwhile, towards the front of the pack, Steve-O has actually worked his way past Quad B for P4 as he continues to look for P3 now. He puts the bumper to Markel through the hairpins. And as a result of that, he actually gets shuffled back 1 spot. Quad B now makes its way back into P4. You can absolutely tell that Steve-O is just a tad bit quicker than both of these two guys, but he's just being a little bit too aggressive, a little too early, as now we have 5 laps to go in this one. Especially if Quad B can make it by Mark L as he looks to get back in line. Will he get back in line? Yes. Maybe. Yes, he will. Just barely. He will get back in line there. As now Shock 537 looks for the move. Not quite going to get it work. Not going to make it work. I believe number 1 Dad is slowing up quite a bit. He looks potentially to pull into pit lane. I believe his day might be done. No, he will not. He will stay on the racetrack for the time being, but I think he's just out there just to take some joyride laps. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, Firefighter and Emma Baker continuing to run away with this thing. They're running relatively consistent lap times, but not going to be quite enough for Emma Baker. I don't think she'll be able to catch him. The top 5 for the past couple laps now remains unchanged. It's still Firefighter leading this thing, and Emma Baker 1.5 seconds back in P2. Mark L still sitting in P3, but with a hard-charging Quad B and a Steve-O right behind him. Quad B looking ever so slightly through the new hairpin. He dove to the inside, not quite enough room to make a move there. And with 2 laps to go there, Firefighter continues to improve. He just set the fastest lap time of the race yet again, a 37.814. Meanwhile, oh, Markel nearly gets turned. He gets hooked. Obviously not intentional as the white flag waves. One more time around for Firefighter. But we'll have to see if Quad B tries to make a move anywhere here. It looked like Mark L just chopped the nose off of Quad B there, coming through the new hairpin. Does not look like he's gonna make a move here quite yet, but coming through the carousel for the final time, Firefighter through the kink. He sees the checkered flag. He wins the B-Main tonight. Emma Baker finishes in P2. Mark L is able to hold off Quad B for P3 and a spot on the podium. finishing right behind Quad B, your 4th place finisher. Steve-O, your 5th place finisher. Chalk 537 finishes down in P6. Brody with a slight charge up to P7. Extreme finishes down in P8. Gino making up, I believe, 1 spot. Yes, he did. He made up 1 spot on number 1 Dad, who sadly in that 2 kart, once he started to see all the other guys go by him, he started to take some joyride laps. He was just out there to have fun. But I can tell you this, it's not all that fun when you see all these rest of these guys pulling away from you lap after lap. But hey, anytime you're in a kart, it's a good time. That's all that matters here. But your B main winner is Firefighter. Your A main winner is Nasty. So a great points day for him. See if that actually slots him back into the top of the leaderboard. It should. We'll have to see though. He only sat 11 points back. We'll have to see if that reverses it here. As we get set to end things tonight, we get set to send people back under the blood moon sky. Been my pleasure to commentate.